Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. It's a special show for me. Not only is it the first show after the Brexit vote, it's also the 4th birthday of the Travel Show. I first broadcast on the 30th of June 2012. I'm 4 years old, and that show 4 years ago was terrible. I said it last birthday and the birthday before that, but it was shockingly bad. If you have any trouble sleeping, and then if you just go to mixcloud.com, search for John Guinn Travel Show, and it's the 30th of June 2012, and have a listen to that, you'll be asleep in no time. I was sitting there in the studio, I had everything written down minute by minute, second by second, and I just read everything out. Even the sound engineer next to me was bored. It was terrible, but at least I had music back then, so half of it was me being boring and half of it was music. So some of the show was okay. The second show was even worse. I had to sort it all out myself. I had no sound engineer, and my recorded interviews didn't work, so I had to ad-lib for over half an hour, and that was really bad too. But hopefully I've come on a long way since then, and the shows are more entertaining and definitely more useful. This week, of course, we're going to be covering the referendum results. I have two guests covering the subject. I have somebody from Abta telling us about holidays, and somebody from UK ECC, the European Consumer Centre, about consumer advice in particular. And also I'll be giving out some travel tips because there is coming up to peak travel time. So I'm going to run through a dozen or so tips. Some you may already know, hopefully not too many, and some you may not have thought about, but I'll be going through that too. And of course there's travel news too, including a story that's come up on Facebook, what's in the Mirror, about a dodgy car company. But first, the referendum. I'm still connected to various travel agent forums, even though I'm not an agent myself anymore. And Friday morning there was a load of posts about questions that their clients have been asking travel agents about the Brexit. And of course the travel agents are taking the mickey out of the questions, but I always feel that if the person knew as much as the travel agent, they wouldn't be using the travel agent in the first place. So stop taking the mickey. They're just worried about their holiday and they want to know more. So there's questions like, I'm going away next week. How do I get a passport quickly? Is my holiday been cancelled now? Can I still use my cash cards out there? All sorts of things. But to find out what has actually changed, I spoke to Sean Tippon from Abta, and the first thing I asked him was, how will the Brexit affect people's holidays?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around at the moment, John, in relation to how Brexit's going to affect British holidaymakers. When there's confusion, obviously, then there's a lot of concern. So that's why we put out a statement on Friday, just as soon as the referendum result came through, explaining to people that, in reality, there's not going to be much of a change for at least 2 years, because we have to set out about formally saying to the EU that we are intending to leave, and we haven't done that yet. And once we, if we do that, then it's a 2-year process. So basically no change. The one thing that has changed, though, which is obviously much more, will affect people straight away, is the exchange rate. Because of all the confusion, uncertainty, the pound has weakened, quite a lot against various currencies. Obviously the euro itself, not quite so bad against the euros. I don't think the euro is doing too well either. So it's kind of balancing each other up to a certain extent. But if you talk about going to America, for example, it's gone down against the dollar. So that's going to have a very direct impact on people, because if you haven't booked a package, and only about 50% of people take package holidays now, you'll almost certainly be paying your hotel when you check out. And obviously, what's relevant then is the exchange rate at the time, and it has worsened. So it's going to mean more expense for people. That's definitely something we can say now.
Okay, you said no change, so no new passports, no visas, don't have to change the holidays or anything. No,
exactly. I mean, if we shoot forward though, let's say, if in 2.5 years' time we have gone through all that process and we're out of the EU, well, basically every single piece of EU legislation goes in the dustbin. So that means things such as package travel regulations, which say tour operators have to provide financial protection. The EU also brought in legislation about data roaming charges, which means they're capped, because, people will often, you always saw these stories in the mail, didn't you, every now and again, about somebody having a bill for, £7,000 as their daughter downloaded a film or something. Well, you can't do that. It's illegal in the EU. So that will go. Also, people relying on a European health insurance card, which gives you access to state medical care. A lot of people rely on that. Mm-hmm. That would go as well. Now, that's we can say that. However, what you could do then, as the UK government will be in very intense negotiations with the EU about what kind of new relationship we would have. So what that would mean, it might well be some of those things we would choose to keep. I mean, for example, with data roaming, I mean, that's up to the mobile phone companies. They might say, well, actually, it hasn't actually cost us any money getting rid of this, so let's not bring it back, because it wouldn't go down very well with consumers, to say the least. Also, with the European health insurance card, well, we actually already have reciprocal health agreements in other parts of the world, for example, with Australia and New Zealand. Well, we might then say to the EU, right, okay, let's keep the arrangements we had before. So it's all a bit up in the air. Now, in terms of getting a visa, we think that's probably unlikely to happen, because if you think, go back in time to the 70s and the 60s when we took foreign holidays then, you did not need a visa to get to France. So we don't know, but it's probably unlikely that would happen. But the other side of that is, we put a lot of money into the European economy by going on holiday there. We're the second biggest market after the Germans. So it's not really in the country's interests to make it harder for us to travel. But again, this is all speculation. We honestly don't know. But what we can say, again, for definite, is no change for at least 2 years, and possibly longer than that.
I'm sure people will still be panicking all the way to the end of August.
There's a lot of confusion. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the issue. A lot of confusion. And unfortunately, when you do get confusion, you will often get, sometimes, well, not often, it's a bit unfair, but sometimes journalists start speculating in wild ways when it's like, well, actually, can we just stick to the reality, which is no change for at least 2 years.
Yeah, that'd be a first, sticking to the facts.
It will, yeah, indeed. Well, yeah, negative stories tend to sell papers, don't they? So,
they do, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so nobody needs to worry about anything for the near future, but moving away from the Brexit, you're campaigning again for balconies and trying to prevent accidents.
Yeah, we are. Again, this is another, rather depressing tabloid stories that we every summer we see, not always, but generally younger people on holiday, again, generally in Spain, actually, where they've fallen or jumped from their balconies. And it's, if you're talking about falling 3 or 4 stories, then the results are very serious. I mean, either paralysis or, many broken bones, or even worse, deaths. So the main reason this happens is people have been drinking too much, and they go out on their balconies. They might, let's say, sit on them, lose balance, over they go, or they're having a chat with somebody in a room above, and they lean over they go. And the most, there's one thing that is really serious, as we see as well, is people jumping off their balconies. That's called balconing, and that's because people like to do it, get it videos and put it on YouTube. Now, the problem with that is that if you, obviously, that's jumping into a swimming pool, by the way. If you miss the swimming pool, you've just landed on concrete. Not good. Alternatively, even if you hit the swimming pool, if you jump, let's say, from a 6-story hotel room into a swimming pool, they're not necessarily that deep. So you need to have a pretty deep, almost Olympic standard swimming pool to do that safely. So we had a guy earlier on this summer, who's 34, who did that, and I believe he's permanently paralysed. So the reason we put out this campaign is just to try and just say to people, look, we're not going to say people don't drink, because that's people laugh at us. We said that. Just encouraging them to use their balconies safely, and we've got a campaign we've been doing with the Foreign Office for the last 4 or 5 years. We put together posters which hotels can put up in reception, just telling people the best ways to behave. We try to do it in a least patronising way possible, but also, just to try and make sure that we don't have anybody, getting seriously injured or worse, dying. I think it's worked to a certain extent, because when we first started this campaign, we had many, many, many more cases of people jumping or falling off their balconies, and the numbers have gone down. And so we'd hope that this campaign has gone partly towards that, but we still have it happening. We had a girl just last week, 17-year-old, who, believe it or not, chose to jump off her balcony. So, and again, luckily she wasn't too badly hurt, because it's only the first floor, but even so, she's not in a good way. So, yeah, so it's a campaign we do, and it's also a campaign that is very popular with the destinations that we travel to, because obviously it's, they don't want to see holidaymakers who come to see them, in wheelchairs or worse. So, yeah, so it works well.
You've been doing it a few years, and it was always around about the June time. Do you think that's a little bit too late to start talking about it? You could do it a little bit earlier?
Well, the thing is, it's more about when people arrive as much as anything else, and because it's an ongoing campaign, and we relaunch it every year. And also the other side of this is we want to get interest from the media to get into the newspapers, on television, etc. And we know how they work, that if you do something too early, then, for example, if you're aiming at summer holiday, they're not interested in summer holidays in April. They're interested in summer holidays in the summer. So that's why we tend to leave it, until June to do it, just so try to get some coverage in the newspapers as well. Because seriously, it's just past experience. If you did it earlier, it would be like, well, why are we talking about summer holidays in March or April? They just wouldn't be interested. So that's why we tend to do it around June.
Okay. I was asked to do a talk on this at a local sixth form 3 or 4 years ago, which has got to be the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, having all these teenage girls giggling at you while you're trying to present.
Yeah.
It's something that Abta or Abta members could do, was to go out to the schools and give
that's
presentations.
That's not a bad idea, actually. It's not something we have considered doing, but no, I don't think that's a bad idea. Yeah, I can have a chat. The various people here, we've got the department that is called our operations department, who actually do a lot of health and safety campaigns behind the scenes, going out to, for example, one of them travelled out to the Caribbean not too long ago, just giving local taxi firms advice on best practice about, how many rest periods their drivers should have and all these kind of things, which they just hadn't even thought about. So, yeah, I think I can have a chat with them and say that maybe we could go out to schools as well. But it's, the whole point about the campaign, though, is that we have tried to be realistic. Initially, the idea was, we had a chat to the Foreign Office, and it was discussed, should we just say to people, don't drink too much? We thought, well, if you say that to an 18-year-old who's going to Magaluf, they're going to laugh at you, really.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
So we've moved away from that, just more to, be careful on your balcony. And it's easily done. It's not people being totally stupid, but if you sit, if you've had 6 or 7 beers and then you sit on your balcony, it's very easy to lose your balance and over you go. So just go. To try and keep, it might be even better just to keep off your balcony entirely if you've been out drinking. So,
okay, we've covered quite a bit. So, where can we find out more about being safe on balconies and about the Brexit?
The best place to look is on our website, abta.com. It's been redesigned recently to make it much more user friendly, so you should be able to get on there very easily and find the information. And if you're a hotelier, if you want to get hold of a poster, then contact us directly. We can send it over to you. So we're quite happy. It's not just aimed at Abta members. This is just aimed at anybody who deals with British holidaymakers.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Thank you for your time.
Hello, it's Roy. Yeah, we're on the ferry. We should be in Spain tomorrow afternoon.
Well, be careful. Lots of crooks on the roads out here.
Crooks? You know where I grew up.
This is different. They target British registered vehicles.
Yeah, they used to do that round my way.
I'm serious. They'll tell you there's something wrong with your car, so you pull over, then they rob you. Or they distract you at a motorway stop. They target hire cars, too.
Hire cars?
Yeah, well, they're driven by tourists.
Oh, OK, I'll watch out.
Good. So, looking forward to the drive down?
Yeah, well, I was.
Thieves in Spain have been targeting hire